It's time to accelerate. Hi, I'm your host, Andy Paul. Join me as I host conversations with the leading experts in sales, marketing, sales automation, sales process, leadership, management, training, coaching, any resource that I believe to help you accelerate the growth of your sales, your business, and most importantly, you. Hello, and welcome to Accelerate. I am excited to talk with my guest today. Joining me is my good friend, Chris Hamilton, founder of SalesTipAday.com. Chris, how you doing?
I'm doing awesome, Andy. How are you?
Good. Always a pleasure to talk with you.
I love talking to you too, sir.
So take a minute, introduce yourself to the audience, and maybe tell us how you got your start in sales.
Yep. It's, let's see. So I am Chris Hamilton. I am a sales and marketing person at heart, living up in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And
where it's winter already.
Well, you know what? I still see outside. It's nice and green, but you know what? That throws us for a loop because it could snow at any time. So, and I'm not kidding about that either in the slightest. I am not kidding.
Yeah, we're here in the first week of September talking. We're recording this, and you know, I saw something on TV. Maybe it was a Canadian Football League game or something, where I was going through the channels and sports channels, and I was like, okay, people are wearing their winter jackets already.
Oh, so just a sidetrack as we get off on a tangent here, but it was when I was away in Scottsdale, because I live in Scottsdale part-time too, in August, a week ago, it had snowed about 60 miles away from where I live. And that's crazy. So it's typical Canadian stuff.
Yeah.
So anyways, just back to who I am. I got my start in sales. You know what? It all started out when I was young. I came from a family where my dad was a salesperson. It started out with a paper route with my twin brother. And from there, literally, when I was 18, I sewed surf shorts and sold them down on an outdoor mall in Calgary here, and started
surf shorts.
Yeah, exactly. It was back in the day in the 80s, right? When people thought surfing was cool.
Okay, I was going to say, not like there's big waves in Calgary.
No, not at all. But sold them down on a mall, made lots of money, had a great time, and really got the bug for sales, and literally have gone from multiple Fortune 500 companies and startups, and lifelong student of sales and marketing, business development, and all that good stuff. So there we go.
Yeah, and I mean, for years you've been publishing great content with Sales Tip a Day, videos, and so on. But over the last year, it seems like you've really specialized now on LinkedIn.
I have. And that came about from an interview I did with Polizzi, who is his last book, Content Inc., which is a fantastic book. Literally, it was probably October last year, November. It was November last year. And he said something. I read in his book, and then he said something, and it just dawned on me. Before, I was very specific, or very broad in general in the stuff I was doing on Sales Tip a Day. And what he said was, he laid out there's 6 steps that were founded that created success if you have a website or a blog. And one of the major ones was a content slant. Pick something and put a little bit of an angle on it. So I decided to pick LinkedIn because I've been on LinkedIn for over 10 years. I was part of the first 1% that was actually on LinkedIn. I've learned so much from it and how to use it. And I had so many people come to me, ask me how to use it. So that's where the slant went. And since then, I've literally almost every post has been on LinkedIn, except for a couple here and there. When I have good buddies like Dave Kirpin reaching out and asking me to promote his new book and stuff like that. But I'd say 99.9% of the time has been all on LinkedIn. All
right. So talk about books. My understanding is now you've written a book about this.
I have. I am I just finished it off. My goal was to have it finished by the end of August, and I did it. And as we're recording this, obviously it's early September. I'm going to sit on it for 2 weeks, get back and just kind of clean it up and make sure it's ready to get published. It'll be a smaller book, probably about 60 pages. It'll show up on Kindle, and still don't even have a title for it. But the idea behind it, Andy, is as I go out and I consult with people on LinkedIn, or I work with organizations on getting their people ramped up on using LinkedIn, I found 11 things that people were doing with their LinkedIn profiles, which seemed to be a common thread across a lot of people. And so anyways, the book starts to talk about kind of the 11 things that people do.
11 things wrong. they do wrong.
They do wrong, exactly. But then I put in, there's literally, I think at this point in time, there's about 42 different tips, tricks, and hacks for LinkedIn that will address those 11 kind of common problems that show up in LinkedIn.
Okay, so let's run through those 11 problems.
Oh, geez. I don't even know the 11 off the top of my head. You put me on the spot on that one. You can talk about one or two if you want that.
All right, let's talk about one or two then. Okay.
It's too early in the morning for me, Andy.
It's always the fear when you're an author, and I get this is when you release a book, you've typically written it. In my case, with my last book, I'd written it, close to a year before the time that it was actually published. Because it goes into the publisher and they edit it and produce them, So then you start doing interviews, and quite frankly, you've moved on to something else, right? So when you release the book, even your mind, even though you want to promote the book, your mind is focused on the next project you're working on. And so they start asking you questions about your book. I got to the point where I literally had to have my book with me when I did interviews and I released it, because it's like, somebody asked me a question about, on page 178, you said, it's like, okay, let me check that. So anyway, sorry, digression.
Well, I'll tell you actually one of the things, Steve Schiffman, who's written, he's written like 1 million sales books. He said that to me. He goes, whatever you do when you interview me, because I interviewed a lot of authors before, he goes, don't ask me what was on page 142 or something like that. He goes, I'll never remember that stuff, right? So, hey, anyways, while you were chatting, I managed to actually pull up some of the tips so I could talk about some of the problems. So I found something here. So, if we want to rattle off a few.
Let's do that. That way people are already in the process of hanging up. Now they're coming back because I know they're going to get the 11. So
exactly. So just to give you an idea why I first focused on financial advisors. So if people go to salestipaday.com and they just look up 11 LinkedIn profile tips, there'll be ones for financial advisors, but literally it's common across most people in sales. So one of the main ones, Andy, that I look at is the headlines that people have. So when you're on LinkedIn, you're in your profile, you've got your name, and just below it is your headline.
Right.
And oftentimes, what LinkedIn does, it takes your most recent position and it puts that position in the headline. And quite honestly, most people don't really care if you're a sales rep at XYZ company or you're a business person at what ABC company or whatever. What I found with headlines, so this is a tip that people can use, is talk about what's the market you serve, what do you do, and have a strong call to action. So for example, mine, I do change mine every once in a while, but mine is your SMB, your small medium business, sales and marketing go-to person who can generate up to 10 times more sales leads. And then, you got your dash and it says, ask me how, right? So what happens instead of somebody looking at, owner of salestipaday.com, now I've got like, hey, here's what I do. It intrigues them. Reach out to me, contact me, figure out how I can help you out type thing, right? So that's one of the tips that I think is specific that a lot of people miss on LinkedIn.
Well, so one of the things that you're sort of saying in there, though, is that some people let LinkedIn fill that in for them.
Absolutely.
Instead of proactively saying who you are and what you do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that to me is the key lesson right there is don't give over your fate to the system. Tell your story. Don't let somebody else tell the story for you.
Exactly. And Andy, I should have prefaced this because I do a ton of research, a ton of reading. And part of the stuff that I found on LinkedIn is if you go through LinkedIn, they make some great white papers and put some great information out. Just by doing specific things to your profile, you can generate up to 15 times more views of your profile. Now, here's the power behind this.
Good stuff. So are we going to get all 15?
No, I won't. But you know what? I do a monthly webinar. So if anyone comes to my website, they can sign up and I go through all this stuff. So I could go through that. But there's you get up to 15 times more views. But the reason why this is important is that according to LinkedIn, 50% of B2B buyers use LinkedIn as a sourcing mechanism for a product or service that they're looking for. And, first of all, if you can generate up to 15 times more views from these people compared to your competition, you're miles ahead of that stuff. One of the things too is if you have an incomplete profile on LinkedIn, so part of the 11 stuff that I'm talking, 11 tips that I give away, really what happens is 50% of those people those buyers will discount your profile, won't even look at it.
Well, so what's incomplete? So what's the first thing they're going to see that says, "Oh, I'm not going to look at this"?
You know what the first one is, Andy? And you'll see this is no profile picture. So if you don't have a profile picture, they're not going to look at it.
Oh, absolutely.
And in fact, actually having a profile picture, I can't remember the stat off the top of my head, but it's like 10 or 11 times greater views than people that don't have a profile picture, according to LinkedIn. So it's tremendous.
Right. And so think about this. If you're trying to reach out to somebody and connect with them proactively using LinkedIn, if you don't have a profile picture, it's just not going to happen. I don't accept connection requests from people that don't have profile pictures.
Absolutely. I mean, it's tough. I usually accept everyone. I've been the last little while. I'm shying away from that. But yeah, if they don't have a profile picture, typically it's suspicious. Let's put it that way, right? I think one of the other tips, Andy, is that I find fascinating is that people don't pay for a premium account on LinkedIn. And there's numerous benefits behind this. I write about this all over my blog. But to give you an example, Sure. This stat I know for sure off the top of my head, a premium account typically will get 15 times more views than someone who has basically an incomplete profile on LinkedIn. And I think there's a couple of reasons behind that. I think one is, if you're paying LinkedIn for a membership, they might give preferential treatment to you. But the other thing too is I think that people that are actually paying for the service are probably the kind of people that they're interested in investing in themselves and making themselves better. But some of the benefits behind this too, Andy, is I'm sure people that are listening to this are going to realize this, is that when you do a search on LinkedIn, depending on how much you use it, if you have a free account, is at some point in the month, LinkedIn cuts you off and says you can no longer look at any more profiles. Mm-hmm. If you want to, you have to go to a premium account. The other thing too is it will only limit you to 100 profiles in a search, whereas I get, and it's weird because it's sometimes it's 1,000, sometimes it's way more than that, but I get way more profile people that I can look at on profile views and such.
So which level premium account do you recommend for people then?
You know what? There's the first level. They've changed. LinkedIn changes. They've been changing quite a bit lately. But there's first level, which is the business account. In Canada, I think it's monthly. It's like $60. I think in the US, it's about $40 a month. Mm-hmm. So just look for that one there. Be careful though so in your upper right hand corner, where your profile picture is or should be on your LinkedIn account, click on there, and it'll say I think it says manage subscriptions. Bear with me for a sec. I'll just jump on LinkedIn and tell you for sure. Then you just go in there and it will help you decide. So just give me one sec here. Business Plus, that's the one I've got. So I would recommend the Business Plus account. Invest in yourself. Like $60 a month. I'll tell you what, I get that back in spades. I make way more money off of LinkedIn by reaching out and connecting and generating sales. It's well worth the investment.
Okay, great answer. So, but the next question is for a lot of salespeople then is, well, what about Navigator?
I get asked this all the time. I without trying to piss off LinkedIn, I'm not a big fan of Navigator. I used it for roughly 10 months with an organization that I was working, doing work with. And I mean, I understand it. It's good in certain aspects. And there's a couple things I do like about Navigator is one, it says there's usually five plus people that are part of decision making process. If you find one, it says, you know what, here's kind of 4 to 5 or whatever other people that might be associated with it. I think that's cool. I think the other thing that was cool about Navigator is that, for example, Andy, I could put you in and watch your activity and it will pop up. And once again, I haven't used Navigator in about a year and a quarter, year and a half. But they used to have this feature and it would pop up and it would tell me, Andy wrote something. Andy was in the news. Andy's this, Andy's there. And I could always reach out and say, hey, Andy, this is a great article. I love it, man. It's awesome, right? And if you could line up all your prospects in LinkedIn, and you don't even have to be connected to them,
right?
It will start showing you what this person's, one, interested in, and two, if you start reaching out to this person, say, hey, I looked at your article, or I read your article here. The stat on LinkedIn is that person is 5 times more open to accepting a connection request, or if you reach out and you try to do a meeting, they're 5 times more likely to accept that request than someone who just reaches out blindly and just says, hey, I'd like to try to get together with you, or I'd like to connect with you. So that's, a couple of things there.
Right. And I was really asking also for people from a sort of a cost perspective is it's not that much more than the Business Plus.
No, it's really not. It's, you know what, truthfully, Andy, I think really, I'm a solopreneur. I have one person, 2 people that work for me, basically. Regular LinkedIn Plus works just fine for me. And I think for a lot of people, it will work fine. One of the areas where I think Navigator works is in larger corporations. And, the company that I was doing work with, a company called Interlinks, they bought memberships, or they bought the membership for all their people. So that's how I got to use it. I think it works better if you're in a more complex sale, there's more people involved, a bunch of stuff like that. So it's just really how you use it. But then again, I haven't used it in about a year and a half. So I may be a little rusty on it now.
Well, no, I think the key point is you are one of the key experts on this. Is you don't necessarily need to take that step to Navigator to get all the benefit out of it that you can with LinkedIn. So
no. But the nice thing about LinkedIn is they'll let you try trials of this stuff. So here's a little secret for these people: if people here don't have a premium account and they haven't used a premium account on regular LinkedIn, for the last 13 months, you can go and get a 30-day free trial. I believe it's the same for Navigator as well. So you could try it as well and just try it out and see if it'll work for you.
Okay. So at a minimum, if you have a free account, go get a free trial. With a paid account, a premium account definitely has benefits. Yeah. If that's your first step, don't worry about Navigator. But if you're a power LinkedIn user, Navigator could potentially be the answer. Again, it doesn't cost a whole lot more than the Business Plus. Okay. So
exactly.
All right. So we've been talking here about one of the key benefits of Navigator being search. So you've got you talk about 5 key LinkedIn search tactics to help you find better qualified sales prospects. I really think that's the holy grail for people when they're using LinkedIn is, okay, what are this way I can search to find the people I need to find?
Absolutely. You've done your homework. That's awesome, Andy. You know what? The 5, I call them the 5 search, the LinkedIn Ninja search tactics. They, as soon as I learned this, it was like night and day for me on LinkedIn. And so there's a couple of things that you can do, and there's search terms, and then there's what they call the modifier. So I'll just go through the search terms first, sure. For example. So you put quotations around 2 or more words. So for example, I always use the example of vice president. So if you just go into LinkedIn and you use, so first of all, let me back it up for a sec. I always tell people, use the advanced search functionality on LinkedIn. And where you find that is at the very top of LinkedIn, there's a search bar. Right beside it, very small word, it says advanced. Click on that. That'll be the first thing that'll change your life on LinkedIn and bring back way better qualified sales prospects. So when you click on that, you've got a bunch of different search parameters you can use. So when you go into title, for example, if you put in vice president, when you just hit enter, it's going to bring back anywhere where it finds that incident of vice or president. So it will bring back vice presidents. It will bring back vice chairman, vice counsel. It'll bring back presidents. It'll bring, it brings back a whole bunch of results that really don't fit within your realm. So what you do is you just put quotation marks around that. And it will bring back only instances where it sees that name. The next one is putting, brackets around it. And brackets will help you with modifiers. Now, before I get into brackets, I'll talk about modifiers. There's 3 modifiers that LinkedIn uses, and it's and, or, and not. And when you use these, you have to have it completely capitalized. So you have to capitalize the and, the or, and the not in order for it to work. Now, what you would do in this case, you could go vice president sales, capital A, capital N, capital D, marketing. So it'd be vice president sales and marketing. And then when you put brackets around that, it's going to bring back examples of vice president sales and marketing. Mm-hmm. If you want to say, I want to find vice presidents of sales or marketing, then just put capital O, capital R in between that. And then if you're only strictly looking for vice presidents of sales, then what you do is you put not in there. So it'll go vice president sales, not marketing. So don't bring back any results where you have that. Now, the key benefits here. Oh, by the way, if anyone really wants to see how to do that, go into, say, Google or search engine and just type in LinkedIn Boolean search tips. So Boolean search tips. And LinkedIn's got a one-pager that you can download, which shows, it walks you through all this stuff. So it's super easy to use. Now, the key benefits to this, Andy, is that before, people just typically search and they get back a whole bunch of garbage results. Now, think about someone that's got a free account. They get 100 results coming back, right? Maybe there's 20, 25 that are good in there that they could take a look at. Once you start putting these modifiers into place, of those 100 results that come back, now all of a sudden maybe you got 50, maybe you got 75, you might even be lucky and get 100 results. You're just getting way more results coming back that are better and specific to those search terms. Mm-hmm. And not only that, you're searching less and you're finding better qualified prospects through LinkedIn.
Now, is there a way then to be able to sort that by company size or industry type?
There is, but there's certain things. So when you use the advanced search, when you click on that advanced search box up at the very top, there's kind of a left column, a middle column, and a right-hand column. The left column and the middle column have different parameters that a free account can use. The right-hand column are all premium features. So I would tell people just get familiar with this, but you can search by area, you can search by industry, you can search by a whole bunch of different things. On the right-hand side, one of the ones that I use an awful lot of times is company size. So it'll say, show me where our employees are, 10 and above. I can't remember the breakoffs on these things, but basically different stratas of company sizes and stuff like that. So that's where you can go through and find that kind of information and kind of narrow your searches down as well. So once again, another key feature of having a premium account is you can actually get better results coming back through that advanced search functionality.
Got it. Or if you have Navigator, you can go to Navigator and do all that.
Yeah. Are you using Navigator?
Just starting to look at it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I shouldn't poo-poo it, but I found I like LinkedIn, the regular LinkedIn better. So
yeah. Okay, cool. All right. So good tips, way to start searching, so can you save those searches? What do you do with the feedback, the results you get then?
Certainly. So there is once you create a search and the results come back, in the upper right-hand corner, you have the ability to save a search. And when you click on Save Search, if you have a free account, you can save 3 save searches. So say, for example, Andy, you're looking for vice presidents of sales in the San Diego area with companies that are 50 employees and above. And you get the results in here. Then what you do is you go into Save Search and you save that. So I'll get to this in a sec, why that's a benefit. But the problem is with a free account, you only get 3 save searches. With a Business Plus account and higher, you get 7 save searches. The other thing you can do is you can save it based on send me the results, never weekly or monthly. I would set it to weekly, and here's why I would set it to weekly. So this is one of the most powerful things that LinkedIn has, is that when someone goes into a new position or changes anything on their profile, LinkedIn will send you those results on a weekly basis. So for example, Andy, you're looking at these VPs of sales in San Diego over 50, and let's say you get back 15 results. And when you go through, LinkedIn will send you an email that says, hey, here's 15 new people for San Diego VP sales. And you go through, you start looking. Some of them, they'll be in the same position. They've just changed something on their profile. But other people will be in a brand new position. So this I learned, and I always give credit where I learned this stuff from. It's from our buddy Craig Elias, who that's how you and I got introduced. Craig Elias taught me this, is that people that are starting in a new position, these are his stats, not mine. So I just kind of paraphrasing him. So I don't know if they're 100% accurate or not, but he has told me that someone in a new position is upwards of 10 times more likely to make a purchase decision or a new purchase decision within the first 3 months of starting a job than at any other time in their career. And so what happens is now LinkedIn's taking these and they're sending them to you, and they're basically sending you potential sales leads to get in the door with people that are 10 times more likely to buy in a 3-month period. Huge opportunities just by leveraging that functionality on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, no, Craig's been evangelizing that statistic for a while. So
Absolutely.
yeah, if we assume that it's true, yeah, very powerful.
Absolutely. Once again, you know what, his stats, I'm going to go with them. So he's a smart guy. So
he is right. Okay, excellent. All right, so good stuff about that. So I wanted to run through just a couple questions, because you've had people asking questions, and you sort of have some of those questions on your site. So we sort of covered a couple of them. I was just scanning down here.
Do you want me to tell you the number one thing that people can do on LinkedIn to generate sales?
Sure, go ahead.
I teach about this all the time. I have a course that I do called the Digital Referral. So this is the easiest thing. So I'll just explain this. And once you realize the power of this, it's incredible. So I'm going to give a couple of stats first to talk about this. So Word of Mouth Marketing Organization has some stats. If you go to my website and any of my webinars, anything like that, I often reference this sort of stuff. 11% of salespeople have a formalized referral process. Which means 89% don't. 65% of all sales are driven by word of mouth or referrals. So think about it this way. 11% of salespeople are potentially accessing 65% of all sales that are out there, whereas 89% are going after 35% of sales. When you do the math against this thing, Andy, typically people that have a formalized referral process are generating 15 times more sales leads than those that don't. And then on top of it, when you do the percentage wise, it's kind of like 93.6%, I think is what it comes out to, of more sales opportunities for people to come to the door. Not only that though, they close at typically double the rate. So normal sales, they say, close 25%, whether that's true or not. That's one of these things that comes from word of mouth marketing. The referrals typically close at 50%. On top of it, they close it up to a quarter of the time that it would normally take, because you're leveraging someone else's trust factor with an individual that's referred you in. So now it wraps back around to the fact that LinkedIn, so this is the biggest sales opportunity by using LinkedIn, is that LinkedIn will show me who you are connected to. So let's say, for example, I've got my accounts payable software platform. I'm trying to find someone that's a CFO, and I see that Andy Paul is connected to this CFO at this company that I want to get into. I simply send Andy a note and say, hey, Andy, hoping you can help me out. Here's what I'm doing. Here's the benefits to the companies that I work with or help out. I see that you know this person from this company on LinkedIn. Would you be able to facilitate an introduction for me? If so, down below is something you can cut and paste and put into an email to send to this person. And then what you do is you just write a quick little blurb that says, in my blurbs, I'm trying to remember what it is off the top of my head, but basically it's along the same lines, which is, you write the email for that person in their perspective. Right, and it says, hey, my buddy Chris Hamilton here. I've got a friend, Chris Hamilton. I've known him for a long time. He does this. This is the benefit of your company. He was asking me if I could introduce you to him. Do you mind if I make that introduction? So Andy, where I get with this is typically on the first time I do that, I get about 37% to 42% of the people that I reach out to actually make that introduction. About 50% of the time, I end up talking with that person, emailing them, or getting into a face-to-face meeting. So typically, when you start doing the math against that, let's just use 40%. 20% of the time, I'm getting into a conversation with someone in my target demographic. If anyone's cold calling, quit beating your head against the wall. Just start leveraging or building out your relationships on LinkedIn and start fostering better relationships with your number one connections, and you will see a dramatic impact in the amount of sales that you get just by doing that. So that's the number one thing that I find from using LinkedIn.
All right. So a question on that, because this is the number one question that comes back on that one is, I don't really know that person, even though they're a first level connection. Yep. So
absolutely. So you're saying, let's pretend that, I'm connected to you, Andy, but I don't know you, which is not true, obviously. But, you pick who you reach out to, right? Like so the first thing, so I'll do a couple of ways here, Andy. If I see that you're connected to someone, but I don't really know you, I'm not going to ask you to do that because, we don't know each other.
But you do know me, and yeah, I've got thousands of connections. I don't know all of them personally.
Yeah. So the flip side is you don't know that person, right? But you and I are still, we know each other. We've known each other for a few years. You reach out, or I reach out to you, say, hey, can you introduce me to this person? You come back to me and say, hey, I really don't know him. You know what? That's the way it is. I just look at it. Okay, well, you know what? I got to find another way to get into this person, right? So that's the way you do it. It's trial and error, and that's just the way it is out in the real world.
That's true. Okay, well, great. Well, we're gonna get into the last segment of the show. I've got standard questions I ask all my guests, and you're probably familiar with these because you say you're a loyal listener of the show. So first one is a hypothetical scenario. In this scenario, you've just been hired as vice president of sales for a company whose sales have hit a tough spot, a rough patch, and they've sort of stalled out. CEO is anxious to get things back on track. So you're in charge of doing the sales turnaround. So what 2 steps would you take your first week on the job that could have the biggest impact?
So first 2 things, Andy, when I listen to the podcast, a lot of people say the same thing. And I'm going to probably reiterate what a lot of people say is first thing I do is I'd understand how is the team working each day. So I'd go in and we start talking to these guys, talking to the sales force that you have, right? Understand what it is they're doing on a daily basis and see where the problems lie. And for example, someone says, I don't have enough leads coming to the door. I don't have enough opportunities. There's something there, right? And are you actually, are you prospecting? Are you actually setting time aside and creating opportunities for yourself? And if they say yes, then it's like, okay, well, let's look at it. Let's watch, let's track this. Let's see what you're doing. Well, chances are if sales have stalled that, instead of, 10 calls an hour or 20 calls an hour, they're doing like 1, then they're running off to the washroom and they're avoiding doing this, or they're grabbing a coffee, or they're going outside and having a smoke if people still smoke. Look for those little things that are the problem, that are that are creating the problems in that organization. And then secondly, what I do is I'd say, okay, let's break these kind of bad habits. Let's start reinforcing what we can do to get wins. Let's, high five you for the accomplishments that you do. If you make 10 an hour, great, high five. Everything's awesome. Positive feedback for that person, right? Show the impact, and show the impact that it has on the organization. I think it's just little problems, and then finding the corrections to those problems is really what it comes down to. That's what I do.
Okay. Good answer. All right. So some rapid fire questions. You give me one-word answers or elaborate. So when you, Chris, are out selling your services, what's your most powerful sales attribute?
You know what, Andy? I think it's I let people look at things in a completely different view. It really what it comes down to is it's exposing the latent pain that these people have and showing that there's a solution to that latent pain. And I think that's one of the bigger attributes that I have in going to organizations.
Who's your sales role model?
You, Andy.
Oh, really? Thank you.
I forgot that you asked this question. I haven't even really thought about it. Who's my sales role model? Do you know what? I'll tell you, it's not really sales role model. Let me tell you who my kind of entrepreneurial sales role sales model. Rick Rubin. I don't know if you've ever heard of Rick Rubin. He's a record producer. I'm absolutely fascinated by that guy. He started in a dorm room working with the Beastie Boys and then also like Slayer, the heavy metal band, right? Like a guy does so much stuff, and you look at him, he's just so down to earth, right? I mean, he's just a super successful guy. And I think he's a master at his craft, which I think is phenomenal.
Yeah. And the fact is everybody wants to work with him.
Absolutely.
Regardless of the genre of music, everybody wants to work with him. So, okay. Great answer. First time I've heard Rick Rubin. So other than anything you've written, what's one book every salesperson should read?
Oh man. You know what? I'm going to default to, Content Inc. with Joe Pulizzi. I was going to say your book too, Andy. I think everyone should read your books, but I'll use Joe's book because it's coming from my background with content and creating stuff. It is an absolute eye opener to Content Inc. is an absolute eye opener to where you can go.
It is, and for people listening to the show, if you go to my website, andypaul.com, click on podcast in the archive. You'll find my interview with Joe Polizzi from earlier this year. Yeah. And lastly, speaking of Rick Rubin, what music's on your playlist these days?
Geez. You know what, Andy? I listen to a ton of audiobooks. So I'm going to answer this kind of two ways. Mm-hmm. I listen to a ton of audiobooks, but the other one, the other stuff I listen to, I don't know if do you have Sirius XM down in the US? Is it Sirius or is it XM? In Canada, it's called Sirius XM.
Yeah, Sirius XM.
Okay. I listen to Chill just because it's so relaxing. That's what I have in my car all the time. Apart from the fact when I get my 9-year-old daughter in the car and I have to listen to the hits station, whatever it hits to. But I listen to Chill because it just mellows me out and just relaxes me, right? Now, book side, audiobook side, I'm listening to two right now. I'm listening to It Ain't Easy by Duff McKagan from Guns N' Roses. Mm-hmm. I just started listening to that because I'm fascinated by him too. He's do you know he owns a private equity firm?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
that's funny.
It's nuts. And the other one I'm listening to is Laws of Success by Napoleon Hill. So I'm going in between the two.
Always good to brush up on your Napoleon Hill. Well, Chris, as always, great to talk to you. So tell folks how they can connect with you.
Sure. Feel free to reach out to me, chris@salestipaday.com. Feel free to go to my website, salestipaday.com. Always love to hear from people. If you ever have any questions about LinkedIn, more than happy to answer them. Just send me an email and we can go from there.
Excellent. Well, good. Well, Chris, thanks again. And remember, friends, thank you for listening to the show, and make it a part of your day every day to deliberately learn something new to help you accelerate your success. And one easy way to do that is to make this podcast Accelerate a part of your daily routine, listening on your commute, in the gym, or make it part of your morning sales meeting. That way you won't miss any of my conversations with top business experts like my guest today, Chris Hamilton, who shared his expertise about how to accelerate the growth of your business. So thanks for joining me. Until next time, this is Andy Paul. Good selling, everyone. Thanks for listening to the show. If you like what you heard and want to make sure you don't miss any upcoming episodes, please subscribe to this podcast on iTunes or Stitcher.com. For more information about today's guest, visit my website at andypaul.com.